Okay, today we're talking about RCS, the next generation of business messaging. To catch you up, if you were not part of our session one, this is session two. What you missed last time, we covered some of the basics. So, some of the definitions, some of the acronyms you may see. So, RBM or RCS, which you'll see throughout our presentation today, is really talking about verified branded messaging that lives inside of a texting app. So the analogy we're using a lot, thinking of HTML email, but for SMS. And the reason we're talking about this now is the fact that Google and Apple are now supporting RCS, which is making it available here in the US. We talked about agents, and in this case, you may hear about agents in a lot of places, but agents in this case are what we call what you get approved, the brand agent that gets approved, where you can send RBM messages, and started the conversation that we're going to extend today around the creative, interactive calls to action and things that you can do as part of RBM and RCS messages. And we left you thinking a bit about the agent registration process that we'll continue to talk about today and in session three, and about the fact that this is really going to activate your creative and analytics teams as you start to include RCS in your communication strategy. So the people that you've got with us today, I'm here in the middle, Becky Banasek, the VP of Customer Success. I get to work with all of our great customers here at True Dialogue. I'll let Amanda introduce herself next.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. I am the CMO and CRO at True Dialogue. My name is Amanda McGuckin-Hager. I've been with the company for a number of years, and I'm really excited to bring RCS to market.
And my name is Sarah Haynes, and I work with True Dialogue on product marketing. And my job is to kind of bridge that gap between the products that we're creating and helping you understand what they are, how they work, and how you can make them part of your marketing mix.
Excellent. So feel free, there's an ability to ask questions. So we'll keep an eye out for that as we go. But otherwise, excited to get started about how RCS is going to fit into people's marketing plans.
Yeah, I think this is really exciting for me. We have been talking internally about RCS and where it might fit in the traditional funnel. And it was in our discussions, we sort of uncovered the difference between a B2C funnel, which is much shorter, much more transactional, and a B2B funnel. B2B funnel is potentially longer, has different values in it. So we put this together. I think, Becky, you have a lot more of experience, a lot of it more insight and experience in the B2C world from some of your previous roles. I'm sure you've seen e-commerce
I was going to
specifically.
say e-commerce specifically, or a lot of B2B2C, right? So, I always think that even if you're selling in the B2B space, the truth is that the person receiving the messages still kind of is a consumer. And I think a lot of the things that we've seen, and y'all have all in the audience probably seen as well over the past maybe decade or so, is as our consumer apps and our consumer messaging is so much a part of our lives that everybody's even expecting something similar on their B2B messaging. People's research on what they buy in B2B is more similar than B2C than it was back when I started doing all of this. And I think people are really looking for a lot of that same kind of imaging, the same kind of interactivity, and they're really expecting us to make these things overlap a lot more than we may have been doing in previous lives.
Yeah. And with text messaging, it's even more so, right? They're receiving the same messages, B2C and B2B, on their personal phones. So
Mhm.
literally, you could be a B2B marketer and you're competing with B2C messages on
Yeah,
that same mobile phone.
yeah, you're not wrong. I remember, 20 years ago in my career, I worked at Dell supporting their B2B line of business, and the concept of, but there is a human on the other end. You may be speaking to the business value, but you are speaking to a human. So in the same way, as business to consumer, B2B takes much of that same messaging, positioning, and approach. And exactly what Sarah said, it's competitive with other B2C messages. So if you think about your phone inbox right now, your messaging app, and some of the messages that you might have in there. I know I have family and friends, I have some colleagues, I have some vendors that I'm working with on different projects. I have B2C messages too, right? Appointment reminders, prescription pickups, deadlines for applications, different things of that nature. But I also have B2B messages in there as well. And I think going back to the growth plan and the marketing funnels on either side of this Venn diagram, I think RCS fits in many, many different ways. And I think we're going to talk through a few of those here, both in the B2C and B2B worlds. So I guess the gist of this slide is RCS fits into your growth plan, whether you're on the left side of this diagram or the right side of this diagram, and it fits in multiple places across the funnel. Or I should say from the top of the funnel all the way through the bottom of the funnel. There's a place for RCS kind of in each of those areas.
And I think it's exciting, especially on the B2B side. I just remember thinking that the most innovative salespeople, I always work on the post-sales side and run the team that works with people in B2B or B2B2C for those who, once they have made that decision to purchase. And I remember like early days of the salespeople sending text messages and having that text message relationship with those that they were looking to convert, and being super impressed, but maybe a little bit annoyed that that wasn't getting tracked anywhere and getting passed on to me later in the process. But I think it's really exciting to think about having this amount of interactivity if you are thinking about how you're reaching out to your B2B prospects. So I get very excited about that use case, even if a bit of my heart comes into retail customers and some of the ways that we think of as the consumer side.
So let's
So
talk
I think
about.
we're going to walk through a lot of types of examples, and I think that's going to be some of the easiest ways for everybody to start to understand what we mean by this, and hopefully get your creative juices going.
Yeah, I think in our previous webinar, we talked a lot about the advantage of RCS having if an SMS text message is like a HTML, is like a text email, then RCS is like an HTML email, right? There's so much you can do from a branding perspective, from an interactivity perspective, from a design perspective, very similar to maybe communications sent out via HTML email. But then there are all these call to action buttons and different layouts and formats. So let's just talk about what we have here on the left, Align Motion Therapy. This is a fake physical therapy use case. It would be a healthcare use case to a consumer client, i.e. a patient. And this is the appointment setting use case there. So this is an appointment reminder. It has different call to actions for the e-check-in. It has a reschedule your appointment call to action there. And I think another opportunity for this message might be to connect that call to action button to the map functionality in the phone and have sort of directions and maybe even parking information for this appointment. So go ahead.
I really love the CTAs in this particular case, because this is a problem, right? For all kinds of companies are they going to show up? Do they remember? Is this going to work? So really this driving the CTAs and being able to customize that language, right? So this language can vary dramatically depending on what you need it to say. If you want it to be filling out forms, if you want to, yes, I can make it, no, I need to reschedule, being able to alter that language and of course test that language and see if you can get the kind of response that you need to actually run your business.
Yeah. I can see
And
in this. Go ahead, Becky.
I was just going to say, yours doing more. I was just going to give more of my silly example of saying, like, as the consumer in this, I appreciate it because, I mean, I think if like my dentist moved, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago. I should know where the new office is.
You look it up every time. Yeah.
I go twice a year, right? I should know where this is, and I have to like I still have to look at the map to make sure that I don't go to the wrong place or the
Yeah.
wrong location. So, just saying how much I appreciate having it all in one place.
Yeah. And I think about how you get message reminders now, appointment reminders now. It's like reply one to confirm. Kind of
Mhm.
it, right? That's kind of it flat. I do know that in the healthcare space, the no-shows account for huge business losses,
Well,
right?
this is
Huge
it. Yeah.
time and all of that. So to your point, Sarah, this is a great a great way to capture it all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um,
And I like the second example too, that Amanda's going to go over in a second, because it's like how to make tax time even even more exciting for people.
mhm.
Yeah, this is a services-based business, right? Your accounting firm, there are big ones in the world, H&R Block, et cetera, some of the other ones, and then there are smaller groups, maybe local groups, um, to do tax time reminders, right? So this is an image. You could put any image in there. You can create an image in Canva. You can create an image with your design team. This looks like a flat image, so it can really be anything that you want. The headline you see there, it's tax time, 45 days left to file, book now. That is the headline. That can also change to anything you want. This particular message doesn't have any body content to it, right? So walking through that, it's just the headline and then the calls to action. File online now, I assume, goes to a portal of some sort. Book your appointment would go to the calendar functionality in the phone itself, and then find an office near me, again, is that map interactivity. So the map on the phone and looking at maybe points in the map where the offices are to actually find the location closest to that consumer. So imagine what this could be done, what other companies in the world can do when they have this functionality through what RCS now offers. It's
And one
huge.
one thing I want to point out here while we're just looking at those visuals and design is you'll notice that the imagery on these different screens actually looks different, particularly like Cedar Grove accounting versus Ridge. That is because everyone's phone, depending on whether you're on an Android or an iPhone, what type of Android you're on, it actually looks different for each person. So you design it one way, which is your image and your calls to action, and you know that you've made that look beautiful with your assets. But I just kind of want to point out, because it can be a little bit confusing. Why does that look different? Well, one of them's Apple and one of them's Android, and that's just the nature of all of our phones.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and it's not unlike creating an HTML email, right?
Yeah.
The email client is what renders that HTML code, and it does look differently whether you're on a computer with a monitor, a laptop, a tablet, a mobile device. So much like email renders differently on different devices, so does your RCS message. It will render differently based on the device and the operating system of that device. Some older operating systems in Apple, anyway, don't support RCS messages, so it would be a plain text SMS message fallback.
True, true. Earlier than iOS 18, I
Hmm.
believe, you're gonna
Hmm.
you're gonna get that fallback. We talked about that in our first meeting, our first webinar, that there's always an SMS fallback. So if you just need that appointment reminder and a yes, no, it's there for those who need it.
Yeah, we'll keep moving because we have a number of different use cases to walk through. The intention around this webinar is just to get everybody's creative juices flowing. I think we mentioned that already, but we tried our hardest to think of the different use cases and come up with these hypothetical use cases that maybe you can apply to your own business after looking at some of these. So keep these in mind as you go through your day and through your business. So the next one to the right is Ridge. This is a software, right? This is a software that apparently helps you find your ICP. And this is a thank you for your demo request. And it has some promotional videos around the product. And the way that these cards are featured, this is what we call the stacked cards. And you will swipe them left to right as the consumer so you can look through. I think what's really exciting about this one is it actually has video in it, which is new and different for text messaging as part of the RCS functionality. That doesn't mean that the other cards have video. The other cards can be plain text. They can be, or I should say plain images, flat images. They can also be videos, which is really exciting. From a creative perspective, it opens up a whole new world.
Yep. And you might stay simple with appointments, but you'll see as we move along here that there's a lot of room for creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. So this would be an appointment reminder sort of thank you message. And then the one on the right here, Maple Elite University, clearly higher education, colleges and universities. This seems to come from the financial aid department on an application deadline reminder. The appointment use case here is to book office hours. As a student, you might not realize what is required on this application or how to fill out this application. You might want some human support. So office hours is here as the appointment. I would assume a link to apply now goes to the forms or the portal of some sort, and then tracking application status would clearly go to some sort of third-party portal.
And certainly anybody in higher ed who's working with that Gen Z population, and those of us who are parents of Gen Zs know this is the only way you're going to reach them. You're not going to reach them on email.
And I think those, Becky can speak to all the opportunities for communication as a parent of college age students. Is that right?
It's so funny too, because in a previous life, one of the things that I was doing was managing post sales for a company that was providing mental health services and remote services for students, and trying to create that awareness. And it's funny to me because we would try to email the parents to let them know that this was something available to their kids, to get the kids to then do the download. And I will still say, for my college age son who just got back yesterday for spring break, I do have him let me know his key appointments so that I put it in my calendar to check with him that morning that he's still going to show up by text, which is basically how I remind him to make sure that, because sometimes even the in-app notifications are not enough for him, but he will definitely look at his text messages. So
yeah, I think you bring up something that we talked about in the first webinar, and it's worth mentioning here again, which is these messages go into the native messaging app on the phone, which is where your family is, where in this case, your mom is, where your other family and friends are. So it's very high engagement, high value messaging. And because it's all opt-in, it is a really engaged channel, unlike, say, email, which, as much as we might think we've opted in, our email database is getting sold and passed around on the other side of our submissions. And sometimes we get emails from people that we don't know, or businesses that we may not know. But RCS and the text messaging channel is very different.
I'll just say one last thing, closing out my story of like my own communications in my house, or how that I think are relevant to this as well, which is we decided there was this advice, like your kid's going to school and how you're going to, what your communication expectations are, because kind of work in this space. I was like, I only expect a response if I have a true call to action
Yeah.
in my message to you. And so we talk in those terms, and there may be informational things that are sent, like hug photos. That is very different than if there's a question, then that is a call to action. So just a little note for clarity of what you're looking for in your messaging.
Yeah, well, I do like these call to action buttons that are new in RCS as well, unlike your traditional SMS message. And I guess we can move to events. I know that Becky, you and I were talking about events at colleges and universities and all the opportunities for students, parents, alumni, fans of the athletic departments. There's across a university ecosystem, there is a huge opportunity to promote different events. In this particular example, it looks like an alumni social, potentially a fundraiser. So having a flyer, an image of a flyer in it with some of the headline there, the body content of the RCS message, and then the 3 calls to action there, kind of similar to what we talked about, the e-commerce buy tickets, share with a friend, and then the directions and parking example. So really, really powerful.
And a neat thing you can do if there is a flyer or an online social media campaign or other advertising is to include the QR code in the advertising so that the consumer or whoever you're targeting can actually scan that QR code, and that's their opt-in. So it's a great way of getting them to engage in these as you kind of think about your mix across all of those media.
Yeah, that's a great point. We talked about using QR codes on doors where people are physically walking through so that they can sign up to be a part of it. Checkout stations would be another one from an e-commerce perspective, like right there at the checkout, receipts, anything that gets printed with the QR code to sign up. We heard a use case recently at a YMCA at the pool. Find out when the pool is going to be open and when it's going to be closed, so you're not driving halfway across town to get there and learn that the pool is closed when you wanted to swim. So,
that QR code on the locker room door, and people
exactly. A great way to opt in. So moving to the left, to the right, I should say, this is Ridge software again. This looks to me like a conference, some sort of conference use case. It looks like there is a registration button, a badge pickup if you've already registered, and the agenda for day one, which could be helpful for those that have registered and even for those that are considering it. So,
and I have to admit, this, having been to so many conferences, I love this use case. How often are you having to clean out the apps that you have to download just to be able to navigate one of the bigger conferences that you go to? And is it not maybe a bit better to just have that in line in the same way that we're talking about this being, again, in your native text app rather than having to go somewhere else or trying to remember why the app is on your phone from sometime in the past?
But with that app-like experience, right? Which is such
exactly.
Yeah. You know, I am flashing back to an event I went to, and it turned out that the vendor, the event people, the host, whoever is putting on the event, they had Uber codes for everyone to get an Uber back after the social, but they couldn't get the Uber codes because they didn't have a messaging platform in place. So imagine if you were hosting an event, you were able to send out to all your attendees something like that, like in the middle of the event, send everybody their Uber code. That could be really powerful and helpful. Also flashing back to the many apps I've had to download. I remember one like, why didn't I learn about this event? I totally missed that panel. And they said, oh, it was in the app. And I was like, there's an app? Oh, that is why I missed it. But RCS changes the game for that use case. And then moving to the right, I think Becky, professional sports is near and dear to your heart as well.
It is. And I mean, you never have favorite customers, but I have definitely worked with sports teams, both college athletics and professional teams for a big part of my career. And I feel like even just regular SMS has already been a game changer, but this is really going to help those people who are trying to go to the game and want more information. How to make that experience better for people. I don't know about you two, but I often make a decision about whether I'm going to go to a show, whether I'm going to go to a game based on how much I feel like dealing with the traffic, dealing with the parking. How can you make all of that easier for people? I know it's not a sport event, but I am right smack in the middle of Austin as we head into the first day of South by Southwest today. And I just don't leave my house for 4 days because I don't want to deal with those things. So the more that I can be alerted, the more that I can know the right path, the more that I know if I'm getting in line for something, that I'm in the right line, the better off I feel about the whole experience, the more likely I am to return. It's a big investment right now for people to come to sporting events. So I think treating it that way and being able to offer everything within these types of cards, and so people can get what they need on demand when they need it, is just helpful, so helpful for people who are really, like I said, I think this is a big investment when they're taking their family to a game.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Ticket prices are not what they used to be. I love this use case. I go to a lot of sports events and just thinking about, the creative juices of like what could be, what's on the table for different professional sports teams. I know that, um, this example has your tickets. So in this example, it looks like this consumer has purchased the tickets. This download would actually add it to their wallet and that's done on the backside with a URL. And then if we scroll to the right, we see the next card for the bobblehead. I know that sports teams make a lot of revenue from their merchandise. I know bobbleheads are a big thing right now. So getting custom bobbleheads for different players on different nights is a sort of draw to bring people into the game, into the arenas. I love this idea, and I can't wait to use it in real life of pre-ordering my concessions, right? So I was at a baseball team. I won't tell you who, but I was at a major league baseball team and at a game, and we were able to order from our seat, which is great. We loved it. Loved the experience of being able to do that. But imagine if I was able to pre-order. Imagine what that does for the concession stand, right? You have a whole arena or whole stadium that is now able to estimate their scale for how much food they need in the concessions, right? You have runners that are going to be able to run food to the seats, kind of like a clockwork sort of operation. And you have revenue, major revenue. I do know that ticket sales kind of dwarf sometimes the food and beverage revenue of game day. Um, and then we've talked about the bag policy. I actually got turned away at an event on last weekend for having my bag, not because I just didn't even think about it. I got all the way up through the line to the security and they said, "Ma'am, this bag won't go." So we had to walk back to the car, put it in the trunk, come back to the event. If I had a message that said, "This is the parking and bag policy, then know before you go" type of message, it could have been a game changer. So those are just some of the things that I think about when I go to sporting games. But
And if you want
uh,
to get even a step more meta, I think when the more engaging you can make these messages, for me, working with teams started with working with how to get more fan data. So, how do you get more people to opt
mhm.
in? I think the more that you can create this information to be helpful or have calls to actions that people use when they're going to the game, the more likely, if I am the person who is the ticket owner, but Amanda's coming with me, which is very likely because we do
Mhm.
kind of share and overlap in some
Yeah.
of the same teams that we follow. Amanda, you may not know Amanda's the other person who's joining me, but if she wants to order those concessions and I can get her to opt in as well, now you've collected even more people because
Yeah,
the
that's a great
messages you're
point.
sending are valuable and something that they can use. So it even gives you more capacity to collect data or include more people for future cross sell.
Yeah, to grow your list, right? That's huge. I never even thought about sharing with a friend. Um, I also like this idea of like, let's say that it's a national championship game or some sort of championship game of being able to send in the game the merch, the winning merch, right? Like the champion t-shirt in black and yellow and red, whatever it might be, the hat, the championship hat, maybe there's chains involved. I don't know. But the idea of being able to send things in real time like that is huge. And then, Becky, we were talking about streaming, like streaming the game. Let's say you
No.
can't get there.
Or that you're streaming, or are you streaming a different, like streaming a different game? So I in my in my newish life as a Premier League fan, as you get later in the season, having games happen simultaneously where the outcome of the other game matters to you. There's lots of reasons why you may want to have some ability or support somebody in terms of finding streaming content.
Yeah, and I think your team is international, right? So they are in a whole nother country. You can't always get to the game, but being able to send out a text message that says, "Here's where you can stream it," is huge for fan engagement. Huge, especially in today's world of sort of bifurcated platforms. Um, so this next one on the right is a nonprofit, it looks like. And it looks like a fundraiser slash walk event, walkathon, I think is what those are called. Um, it's got the flyer for it, and then it looks like it has cards with all the different event information, maybe registration information, maybe sponsorship information, thanking our sponsors. Maybe it's a donate now. But yeah, this is a great opportunity for nonprofits as well and their fundraising events.
And it's a great way to use the event to begin engagement, right? Maybe you're just
Mhm.
somebody who wants to walk in a 5K and you're starting to engage in an ongoing relationship there for
Mhm.
ongoing fundraising, donation, and it's the beginning of that connection.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have one more way that I'm trying to think about that it's not, again, these are all new ideas. Um, I had worked with previously a one of the organizations that you can raise money for charity, but it's one of the, you go do the race where you have to crawl through the mud, or you may get
Right. I think I've done that event.
electrocuted. Yes, things like that.
Everybody.
And I thought that the most interesting thing, and this is a few years ago that we would talk about this. So they would send everybody what was an 18-page survey on the way home. And again, you're so invested, you've got all of the dopamine on
Mhm.
your way home. But they found that nothing within the 18-page survey that they did send by message back then actually correlated to whether or not anybody was going to join the race the following year.
Oh,
So I
wow.
imagine the more that you can have more than one compelling, short ability to use that time when somebody's so invested as a follow up, I think
Yes.
is huge. And I think
Yeah.
that I don't think an 18-page survey is the right answer, but how about the fact that you could try out multiple things to see what is the right answer for how to use your super engaged people at that most engaged time, and most of them are not the ones driving home. So how do you just utilize those moments?
Yeah. You know, you
Build
bring up a
on.
great point that we didn't really include in this webinar, which is polls, right? Surveys and polls. So much maybe less so for a survey, which seems more in depth. It may have technology behind ordering the answers, et cetera. But RCS could be really good for polling, just lightweight polling, kind of like this Ridge example. Imagine that said answer one, answer two, answer three in those buttons. And then on the backside, as an organization, you can understand who's voting where across those three choices. A totally different use case we didn't even think about including in this webinar, but is certainly on the table for RCS for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll say my dream of that would be, hey, how do you create engagement? So again, we're trying to bring all these ideas together. So let's say you're at a show, as you're coming in, your ability to opt in, and that they're going to do a poll or a vote for which
Mhm.
song is going to get played
Oh yeah,
um,
that would be
at
so
the end,
fun.
which would be so fun. I just think it just unlocks so much
Yeah.
when you start to think about all the different things
Or
that you could do.
what about opting in at the show with the promise of behind the scenes footage
Oh yeah,
or something
yes,
like that, right? Like a true fan base, the fan engagement on that could be huge.
And so much
huge.
of it is about that timing, right? And to me, that's where text messaging compared to email is always going to win, is in that moment of excitement, in
Hmm.
that moment of motivation. And I just nothing can beat texting for that, I think.
Yeah, the timing,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Purchase.
I know. So now we get to move into back to my talking about a lot of my e-commerce background and thinking of some of the different ways or the different types of things now that you can do to drive purchasing and conversion with once you have all of these tools in your tool belt.
Yeah. So on the left, I think Credenza is a fake e-commerce. Uh, it does sound like a really nice, like I would buy from a company called Credenza. Um,
Very
but
mid-century modern.
it is. It looks like they sell bullet journals, and it looks like to me that it's maybe a product launch type of message. See the available colors and then buy now. That is fun. I know that much like we talked about B2C, the B2C funnel, it's much shorter, almost impulsive in many ways, right? It's like in that moment at that time, making those decisions quickly for a very short sales cycle, and having this whole new channel to merchandise and drive that value proposition home is really exciting.
I know, when I think of the equivalent of just how interactive a lot of the ads you see on social media, that probably is a lot of what drives people to not be on social media in some cases. But I think one of my least favorite experiences is when I see a particular product, but when I click through to shop, it's not the product that I saw. And I can't
Yeah.
find the one that was in the image. And so again, when
Yes.
we start to talk about things like carousels or things like that, and making sure that what you're doing is super specific to what they're going to get when they click through, it just gives us so much more ability to do that, as opposed to having a static image that you might have sent in the past.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
keep in mind with carousels, it's up to 10 images. And every one of those can have multiple CTAs. So you've got a lot of different actions. But it does let you promote it really precisely, not a generic picture of shoes. If it's going to be shoes, then it's better be that pair of red pumps.
Yeah.
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 But it lets you do that.
And the call to actions could be check the inventory, right? Check the sizes,
Yeah.
check in store, check online, find closest to me. There's so many great call to actions above and beyond purchase that sort of drive intent.
Exactly. That are really precise and really align with the users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this next one looks like a travel agency.
And what a great way to use images.
Well,
If you want to
exactly.
be drawn in, I feel like that beach is calling my name today, right now. So
I would just be going through all 10 images over and over again.
A little dopamine or serotonin hit with every image, right?
There we go.
I love this language. Nothing wrong with the tan in January. I know in the Northeast, my family loves to snowbird in February, January, February, getting out of that snow and into the sun. But yeah, learn more, call my agent. So this RCS does give you the opportunity to connect with the phone app in your native device and be able to make phone calls right there from the message, which is kind of cool.
And you can also, if you want to text, if there may not be a live agent and you want to be able to send a text, you can actually set up a specific auto reply to that text, saying, great, I'll be calling you later today, or whatever kind of reply you want, so that you're keeping the conversation going, even if it's not live.
It looks like that's actually what happened here. Learn more was a call to action. It looks like the consumer pushed learn more, and then it auto responded with top 3 destinations, which all look sunny and warm.
Exactly.
That's exciting.
And I get excited about some of the personalization too, and segmenting this would allow about how you're going to pick what those 3 are. And I am always surprised in a fun way at how easy it is to probably predict like-minded people who show up to the same places. Like I had that experience in a part of Costa Rica where we're in line for coffee in Nosara, and it ends up that, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from the States. Okay, I'm from Texas. Okay, I'm from Austin. And it ends up they lived around the corner from us. So it's not that hard to predict. And so the fact that you could start to use segmented lists to try to drive what specifically is showing up is something that we would hope that this would provide a lot more flexibility for people to do that.
Yeah, like sending this message to those that reside in the north would probably have better conversion than maybe those that already live in Florida. Right? Or something like that.
They might want to go skiing.
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
right time of year for spring break, where based on where you live, those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Just in the essence of time, we'll keep us moving. It looks like the next one is Game Time Racing. I assume that this is a in-person sort of amusement park type of location based on this. And it looks like a credit purchase. So that I know that we're, as a community, looking at credit economy more and more. So also a way to do purchasing intent. And then on the right, Meridian Capital looks like a product to me, maybe a software. And it looks like this might be sent to a free user of the software or a lower tier user of the software. And it's looking to drive to an upgraded version with increased features and functionality.
And this is an interesting example because it could be a B2B. Most of the
Mhm.
purchasing, it seems more B2C oriented. But if you've got a, free trial to paid conversion path, this might
Mhm.
be a great nudge to continue the conversation, to do a self-service auto upgrade, or to contact a member of the sales team for kind of the next stage. So it's not e-commerce, but it's definitely a purchasing use case in B2B.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The product-led growth companies, right? Whether it's
Exactly.
B2C or B2B, it doesn't even really matter. If product-led growth is part of your strategy, this is a great opportunity to
Looks a
help
lot
drive
like
it.
B2C. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
great point.
All right. Speaking of engagement, uh, we've got a few more examples of a different vein.
This looks to me like, well, let's just step back. Let's say that you are a company and you have created your own application, right? Your app is in the App Store in iOS, it's in Google Play or the Android Store for Androids. For downloading, you've already invested that time to develop it and create it and launch it. You've probably optimized your listing in the stores to show up high in the results, put a lot of time and energy into it. And perhaps you're not getting the best engagement from it that you'd like to see, or you want to improve some of those engagement metrics. RCS is a great opportunity to do that, really.
Yeah. I love this because it's not an either or, right? It's what does your mix look like? What does your
Yeah,
marketing mix look like? What does your technology mix look like? And you may have some very unique functionality within your app, which if nobody's in your app, they're not getting to appreciate. So being
exactly.
able to drive to that app that you've invested in that has a huge amount of value for your customers is amazing. I was thinking about that when we were talking about the conferences, right?
Mhm.
Driving that initial, know before you go aspect of the conference. And then once they're on the floor, where you really want to know what that schedule looks like, and Amanda didn't know there was an app, that's
Yeah.
that opportunity to drive from that initial know before you go event kind of use case into the app engagement use case.
Yeah, that's really smart. The sending a message in the native messaging app to drive to the event app during the time of the event,
Right.
right?
At the one moment you're
At the one
willing to
moment you need
download
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
When you need it the most.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
think it, and there's so many of the rest of the examples that we gave that fit well with this. If the app is the place that you need someone to do something, you go back to the student example.
mhm.
So it's not like that you're putting in for financial aid necessarily at some place random. That very much could be an application, it could be a website, but I keep thinking of again all of those times that you're saying where you're getting people's attention when they need to do something that is more complex and you're driving them to get there. An app may be one of those places,
Mhm.
and this is a place to give that nudge to somebody to be able to get that completed.
Exactly.
And I'll throw in some of the industry stats that I've been reading and some of the challenges that we see with apps is that sure you can push a notification through the app, but that doesn't mean that notification is received because how many of consumers have it either bundled in a combined delivery with every other app on their phone, or they've just turned off and silenced those notifications, right? So you may be pushing those notifications and those notifications may not be received, right? Apps are also installed for that point of moment and then uninstalled. That conference example rings true here, right? You download the app, use it for the conference, you delete it and get it off your phone and free up that space. So there are some challenges with apps, and I think that RCS could be maybe a solution to driving some of those engagement metrics back up. So it looks like on the left is the we miss you, you haven't logged in a while. That's a great use case, right? Driving people back to the app. Um, it looks like that example also has some sort of loyalty program in it, right? Which is another use case. Check your point status. Um, then we have Brinker Mogul Club. It looks like they are just launching a new app. So being able to download the new app, um, that is one way to drive installs. in a very rich way with visuals. Bingo Bank. I would bank at Bingo Bank.
I would too.
I'm just not so sure.
It's like, hey, I'm gonna stop by Bingo for some cash.
Right, right. It looks like the bill is ready. I know I get these from my cell phone provider, right? Your bill is ready. Click here to view your bill. Click here to pay your bill. So that's exciting. It's a new use case to drive back to that app for that engagement. And then Ridge is that software example again. It looks like this is the upgrade. So this must connect to their app to upgrade inside the app, is my guess.
You know what I love about that bank, just to revisit that bank example here, is this, we get these via SMS, perhaps just view your bill, pay your bill, but this is also an opportunity to go, hey, have you seen our financial, your budget, our budget management tool?
Mm-hmm.
Something that if somebody's just clicking over, paying the bill and leaving, they don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But as an opportunity, because you can have up to 10 images in your carousel, as an opportunity to actually promote features that, again, you've invested in, nobody's using them, and not just paying that bill.
You bring up such a great point that I hadn't thought of, which is add-on features, but also add-on products. Right. The cross-sell and the upsell. I know. So I'll just use my cell phone example. I'm with AT&T. They have all these additional insurance policies. They have these additional paid functionality, including those promotional tiles in with the bill could be. It's much like direct mail, actually. When you get the direct mail and you open your bill, if you still get postal mail like I do, right, all those things fall out, right? Those promotional flyers. And so that can be translated now to the messaging app.
Yeah, I'm going to close this out again, reinforcing what you were saying, Amanda, at the beginning. I think similar to how I used to maybe use my email as a to-do list of what was unread, I definitely use my messaging app for that as well. So it's like, was there something that my husband told me? Is there a bill that I need to go check on? And yet I am constantly having to look back up and remember, hey, wait, I already opened my phone. I lost what that app notification was. Where do I go back and find what the last round of notifications? Like, I don't even remember who it's from. So again, for me, I think that I am absolutely your audience for using messaging to reinforce what you need me to do in your app.
It's a great point. You can't beat that time sensitivity, right? What was the last thing I had to do with this organization?
Yeah,
exactly.
And I can relate to losing those notifications, right? Like, where did they go? 100%. How far back was it? Who actually sent that? Reviewing and scrolling all those notifications to find the one I needed to take action on.
Yeah. And finally, I think, again, for those of you who are with us in our last session, we talked a bit about the difference between, there is, even within RCS, there is a rich media option that delivers text that, while you have all of the branding that you're looking for at the top, that you had the verified user. So one of the things that we have not mentioned again today is, if you noticed in every one of these images, there's the blue check mark that is part of showing that your brand has been verified. And so this is an easy way to get the benefit of the verification in the brand, but still use text messaging for pretty simple alerts and notifications, and kind of get a little bit of both worlds.
This is trust, 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 especially those first three. I don't think there's anyone on this call or anywhere else who hasn't gotten that fake urgent pay your tolls, email. Being able to send these when it's really a legitimate alert or notification with that trust is, I just don't think anything can replace that.
Yeah, it's a game changer. So these clearly look different than some of the other examples we looked at previously. This is what's called rich media messaging, which does have that verified sender. And then the body of the message is much like a text message. You still have 160 characters. You may include a link. You may want to keep that link short, as it is in the SEPA example here, because you are at a character limit, right? I think that is billed and charged differently than some of the messages that we looked at previously. So we wanted to include this as an example that's available to the RCS messaging or through the RCS messaging technology that is less rich, more plain, if I can say it that way, but critical when trust is a factor, right? So this is on the left, you have a one-time password, right? You don't want a one-time password to be spoofed, or I don't even know if spoofed is the right word, maybe smished, I think is the word. Smishing is when you have a fake profile and you're sending these messages. It looks like the next one is a logistics application, right? Or a logistics use case of your order has been delivered.
A
So
really
delivery
common scam
notification.
one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
With all the porch pirates, like you really do need to know
You
now
need to
when
know,
it
and you need
shows
to know
up.
it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that it's a call to action to call or click if you need to speak with someone. And then the next example is the bank again. And so it looks like that person in the previous example actually scheduled their payment, and this is a payment schedule confirmation notice, is my guess. And then to the right, an unsubscribe message.
So I know as a daughter, in this case, I'm excited about this. I feel like one of my proudest daughter moments is the fact that I've now gotten my mom to at least let me know if she gets something to check is it valid. So,
Yeah.
so this is going to be very helpful to me. Not that I don't enjoy the interaction with my mom on these things, but I
Yeah.
look forward to the fact that verified messages are going to be welcome and
Now
a
that
few
you
less
say
questions.
that, I could see in the Credenza and Supermart examples actually adding the text, no, you will not receive a message from us that is not from our verified brand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? It's a real
Yeah.
opportunity to provide that education and ensure that your messages are getting clicked on, but the other ones are not. And
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'll just throw in what we talk about so much these days, which is AI, right? Which is so helpful in efficiency in so many ways, but also helpful for bad actors,
Mhm.
right? So sending out messages may be getting easier and easier to impersonate people or brands, and
Yes.
having this verified sender, which I think we'll talk about a lot in our next webinar, right? We'll
We
talk
will,
about
yeah.
the how to get the verified sender status. It's what we call the RCS agent, not to confuse things.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
talk through what's required for those.
And as we talk through that, and it seems like, oh, that's a lot of steps. That's a lot of things I'm gonna, have to get organized to get that agent. But this is the payoff, right? Only you can have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
total trust figure.
Yeah. And to think about that in preview, what we're going to talk about next week in session 3, and to give a bit of a highlight of some of the things. So in addition to talking about how you get registered, how you get started, and how you want to partner with people to get there, we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to build an RCS campaign. And just to give a little bit of a teaser to that, certainly on the right, there are coding ways to do all these things, and APIs are available and going to be available to do it. In addition, there are marketing-led or UI ways to do this. So we're going to deep dive a little bit more into UI and how we'll make it easy, or how it can be easy to start to use all of this rich content in everything that you're sending and doing.
Yeah, I think when we stand back and look at the market at large, there are a number of APIs that you see on the right. I know as a marketer, I dread the idea of having to put in a ticket to development and hope that they can create a message for me, and or if they make errors or I want changes, going back and forth with the development team to get that message designed and sent. Or as you mentioned, we have on the left sort of a marketing led sort of self-service, what we call Composer, which allows non-developers like myself to create and send and test, create, test, and send. So it's sort of a choose your path. Which way would you like to go?
And I do see a question that this may be something we talk about more in session 3 next week, but is there an integration to a ticketing app, easy way of sending out individual tickets or codes? Making decisions on what's the right combination for you or what's the right approach has a lot to do with your use case and what kind of campaign you're conducting, whether an API and a more IT-led approach is a better choice may have to do with exactly that if you're delivering tickets versus marketing new features. So
Yeah. And I think that particular answer has a lot to do with URLs, right?
Yes.
If there's a
Yeah.
custom URL for those tickets, then being able to auto-populate that in the marketing lead, it would be one of those dynamic values down there on the left, is my guess.
Absolutely. We will cover that a bit more next week as well. So please do come back.
For sure.
And finally, this is one that we're touching on, I think, each time because, well, at least for me, it's one of the most exciting parts of this is, again, there's going to be new analytics that weren't available to you as part of SMS or MMS messaging. So this is something that we'll just continue to talk about in terms of the types of things around sent and deliver, replies, response time, the fact that you can actually see some typing indicators, whether people are having to use the SMS fallback, and thinking about how that, or how can you start to plan ahead for if you're already putting this data or pulling this data into BI tools. What is that going to look like? How do we start to prepare for that? I mentioned earlier the ability to have some of that data and segmentation, whether it's this pre-campaign or how you use that for your next campaign. And then also whether it's using an A/B testing capability or the fact that you have multiple calls to action, can reorder, can do your list, the fact that you can set up and do significantly more testing with what's available to you in this type of messaging. So a lot to get excited about on the analytics and the data side of what RCS can do.
Yeah, I know that in traditional text messaging, you can get just kind of basic metrics, right? Like sent, delivered, and maybe clicked through if it has a link. Maybe, well, I know with RCS, the analytics are much richer. And like you said, the A/B testing, there may be a particular platform in there, or it may just be, I sent 10 cards. Which are the top 2 cards that were clicked through, right? Did they respond well to the video? Did they respond better to the flat image? Did they like this call to action over that call to action? So it's really an exciting time to get to know your audience and then personalize and customize their journeys from there.
Yeah, what you can do with that ongoing data. If you've got 3 calls to action and one is to take the bank example, one is explore our new budgeting tool. Well, then you can segment the people who clicked on that and
Exactly.
send them follow-up marketing specifically on that application, that feature. Yeah.
That's exciting.
It is.
And we'll talk a little bit more again, but I think it's one of those things we want to reinforce, right? So we want to help people get started, or at least get you thinking about things. So we'll keep talking about these steps and go more into depth next week. But again, we talk a lot about registering your agent, and we'll keep using the term agent here. You can already start to think about how you want to fit RCS into your channel mix and what that looks like. And we keep mentioning again, you can imagine that this really opens the door for what creative assets that you can use, and opens the door for what you want to do with the analytics. So all the things to be thinking about that are exciting in terms of the fact that this is a new channel that's available to you.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how to get started, crawl, walk, run. And these are the first couple of steps to just get started crawling, right?
Yeah, this was a real thought starter today, right? It's everything you might do over the course of a few years, not your first week with an RCS agent.
Yeah.
Lots of steps in between.
This is why you want to think a little bit about, like, again, the crawl and starting to try some things out. But I think the sky's the limit in terms of what you can do, and we'll continue to be here or to help people. This is part of what my team does with ideas on where to start and where you'll get the most bang from your buck to get started and prove out the value. So I want to thank everybody for your time. We have led right up to the hour. I appreciate everybody joining us today and being part of this conversation, this exciting times in terms of what is new and available for you. Again, we'll be back next week for session 3. which is even more pragmatic in terms of how you get started, how you register, how you can create a campaign, and really excited to get to go in depth with you then. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week.